Well, I pulled the lifters out of this thing, and actually one good thing about pulling the lifters out, they're not shellacked up. One good thing about changing your oil, sometimes when you try to pull these lifters out, they'll have shellac right down there on the end right here, and you're like, you know, you're putting PB Blaster and all this kind of stuff to get that garbage off so you can pull them out. But these were very bad lifters. See that? They're not just concave. I'd say about, not quite half of them got dents in them. I mean, like visible damage. See that? There's another one. And all of them are concave instead of convex. They're not flat tappets. They're, so even this, you could see it's worn in. Instead of having a slight curvature going out, they're screwed up. See that? So this was a good guess on my part. This cam was no good. And even though I got the stock cam going in here, and see that's one even, that's just some dirt there, but even though the stock cam's going in here, it's going to have a hell of a lot more power because I got a feeling these lobes are way worn down. And the other thing I got to find out is, do I need to take this piece off? I might need to. Camshafts is about 24 inches long. So I'm going to measure from here to there. And you know, I remember like some of the times we were doing these cars, you had to loosen the motor mounts and lift the motor up a little bit so we go through the grill and all this other crap. They're not, it's very easy. It's easy to install a camshaft when the engine's out of the car, but when it's in the car, it's more work because partly because of taking off the body pieces. It's not just because it's, you know, it's not just the radiator, and you know, if you got AC, you're gonna have to take the AC condenser out too. So kind of a pain in the butt, man. But one thing too, it's been raining out. Just a little while ago, I had this rain coming flying in here this way, knocked over the trash can, and I had to close the hood, put the cardboard on this thing before I closed the hood, and I was like, I was halfway done pulling the lifters out, and that's what's been going on off and on. It's like it's a little clear out there, and it's been raining. So, but you know, I'm getting it done, little piece at a time. But just want to show you that even if you're replacing the cam with a stock cam, you're going to probably get a lot more power out of it. And watch what type of oil you use, because the reason these lifters get screwed up is most of the oils sold today aren't designed for it, because since 1996, you're talking the last 22 years, most cars, at least 1996, practically every car out there doesn't use a flat tappet cam, even since the late 80s. So they don't need the ZDDP additive, and not that much. And the reason they cut back the ZDDP additive, the zinc phosphate additive, ZDDP, it's Zulu Delta Delta Papa, they cut that back was because of emissions where it would clog up the catalytic converter. So if you don't have enough of that additive, it'll tear up your cam pretty quick. There's a few oils out there. I heard like Castrol Titanium Edge is good. You can see this, all this stuff was blowing around here because of the freaking weather. But one cheap oil left that still has a lot of ZDDP in it is Shell Rotella Triple Protection Diesel Oil, 15W40. If the oil says SN on it, SN as in Sierra November, it has that classification. That means they lowered the diesel. They lowered the, you know, a lot of diesel oils used to be good, no longer. They used to say SM, Sierra and Mike, the classification. Then they used to have 1,200 parts per million ZDDP. And now all these other diesel oils, they lowered them to below 800 because they have the classification SN. This doesn't have that classification. They lowered it a little bit, but it's way over 800 parts per million ZDDP. It's still over 1,100, so it's fine for a flat tappet cam. You don't need to spend $8 to $10 on flat Tampa cam oil. So one little tip. But if you don't do that, and also I got the break-in oil for when I put the cam in there with the, you know, with the assembly lube, the break-in oil for the first 500 miles. But you know, every time I change the oil, I'm gonna have to use that Rotella stuff, maybe a little Marvel Mystery oil, but it's got to have enough ZDDP in it, or else get that real expensive junk that's like $8 to $10 a quart. I ain't doing that. It'll add up. And as I suspected, because I was measured the camshaft, I think it's around 25 inches. So this piece has to come out. I don't think this has to come out, but that'll give me just enough room to get in or out of there, because it's probably going to fit. I think when it goes out, it'll go just under this. At least I don't have to lift the motor up or anything and loosen the motor mounts. It's still not that bad, but that means I got to take the headlight assemblies out, unbolt this thing. But, you know, problem is it's raining out. It's off and on. It's kind of bugging the shit out of me, and I don't feel like, you know, I got to bag stuff up as I go, because, you know, I don't want to get all the parts wet. And even though I'm under a carport, the rain's been coming in here, you know, because it rains sideways. Anyway, you got to take this part off, this part too, the grill and this part. I might go over that in a separate video. Yeah, I want to say something else too, that ever since I bought this car in August 1991, it always had a lifter tick in it that I could never adjust out. Like when you adjust the lifters, you go quarter turn or half turn, you know, even used a half turn, you know, after from zero lash, it would never adjust out. Even when I use the, you know, the additives or get rid of the varnish and garbage and lifters, it never went out. It never got out of there. I always use the right kind of oil with this thing. So, you know, it's just pointing out that, you know, there's not that much oil. There's not many oils left that you can actually use with flat Tampa cams, unless you spend a lot of money, or you use right now currently Shell Rotella with triple protection diesel 1540. Right now currently is good, but if they put an SN classification on it, that stuff's no good either, because a lot of stuff that was good just even last year is no longer any good. But I used the right oil with it. But that's also telling you that even though the cam probably had in lifters, there was probably a bad lifter or the cam. I was using this car since 1991, August. I drove it out to California, drove back from California, drove it up and down the coast dozens of times. You know, a lot of long trips. Still runs. Still runs. So, you know, if you got a lifter tick, it's not necessarily, you know, the engine's going to stop running. But, you know, if you want it to run right, well, it's considered it's probably been bad for the last 25 years. It's about time to change this sucker. Probably need a freaking engine eventually too, but this is a lot cheaper option than freaking putting an engine in. And a lot less work.